Hey wood stove fans, it's Tim from Jøtul, and I'd like to show you the proper way to start a fire in a wood stove. And you know, newspaper or fire starters aren't the most important thing when starting a fire. Good, dry, properly sized kindling is the most important element of starting a fire. There's more, but we'll talk about that later. So I've started lots of fires in my life, and right now we're literally thinking outside the firebox. Here are two of the best examples of fire starting techniques that I've found. One we'll call the top down, where you can see I've used liberal amounts of crosshatch kindling that are stacked on top of logs. In this method, I've placed a log on either side of my crosshatch and two logs on top. The reason why I'm incorporating logs into these kindling fires is because once I light the match, set the air control and close the door, I don't have to go back and tend that fire for quite some time. So I've placed some crumpled up newspaper on the firebox floor, and that's what I'm going to light the match to. I could have just as easily, as I mentioned before, used some of this fire starter. So now I'm going to build my fire. So I'll place a piece on either side of the newspaper of wood, and then I'm going to build my crosshatch over the newspaper. And again, I've got some nice dry kindling here. And the reason for this crosshatch of kindling is there's going to be lots of airspace, so that as the fire is starting, this kindling is going to catch and really produce a lot of heat and throw that heat right up the chimney and get this fire going as quickly as possible. And that's going to be great. And I'll place these two logs on top of my crosshatch of kindling, finish it off, and now we're ready to start a fire. If you have a situation where your chimney is not supplying enough draft, one way to assist that is to place some newspaper up on top of the fire and light that first, and then light the newspaper across the bottom or the fire starter. That'll just burn quickly and throw some heat right up that chimney and assist it in producing better draft. Alright, so the excitement's been building, and now it's time to light the fire. So I know I have pretty good draft in this chimney, but I left that newspaper in, so I'm going to light that first. And then I'm going to light across the bottom. Now at this stage of the fire, until everything is caught well, I want to make sure that my air control is fully open, and of course my ash pan door is closed all the way. My load door is closed, my side load door is closed, and now I'm going to let this fire get going. You can see that the flames are working their way through my crosshatch of kindling. That's nice, dry kindling, so that's going to light up quickly. I will tell you that if you get into a situation where you have marginal draft, you can always open the load door a little bit to help things get going. And if I've done my job properly, I won't have to open up that door because I know that my stove is connected to a chimney that's supplying good draft. Now, I've mentioned before that one of the most delightful sounds I can hear when I'm starting a fire is that snapping and crackling and popping as my kindling is starting to burn. And that is starting to happen now. So it looks like we've got a successful ignition. Now remember, I've placed some logs on either side and on top of this kindling pile. So now I can just leave this, go about my business. I might come back in a half hour, 45 minutes to an hour, and throw some more wood on. And if you look closely, you can see some smoke swirling around as the fire starts. Because I've done all of this in advance, I don't have to open up that door and I don't have to worry about any of that smoke coming out into the room. I think we've started a good fire. So, here's proof. We've done our job right today. We've got a good fire going. I've got my air control wide open still. As this fire establishes itself and the logs catch, I'll begin to close this air control down. What I normally do is about a quarter of the way at a time, and then I'll leave it, come back 15 or so minutes later, close it down a little more. Each time I'm visually checking the fire to make sure that the flames are still robust. I don't want to close that down too quickly. So, from Tim, the stove guy at Jøtul, happy fire starting.